John O'Reilly, I had seen play in high school, and they had a very good team. In fact, they had three or four other players who played Division One, played at St. Joe's, and LaSalle, and places like that. And he was actually a guard at that point in time, a point guard, albeit a slow one, a kind of bulky one, not quick as you would like. And as he asked me uh, many years later, why didn't I recruit you? I said, who would want a chubby 6 foot 3 inch point guard? And he said, I came along after that though, didn't I? I said, well, yes, you certainly did. So I saw him play, did not recruit him, and he went to LaSalle, my alma mater, of course, and he played freshman basketball, not very much, and he finally quit school, quit the team, quit the school altogether. And a fellow that had been the team manager at LaSalle when I was playing up there, he brought him down. He said, Here, we got a really fine player. He's played independent ball for a couple of years now." And I said, I know John O'Reilly. I'd seen him play before. I said I wasn't really very interested in him. He said, well, he's different now. He's bulkier. He's 6'4". He's a post player and an outside player, a great defensive player. And I said, well, bring him down. So he came down and he worked out, and he was tough and he was very sure of himself, which is probably his biggest asset. He just thinks there's nobody better in this United States than he is. And he talked a big game and actually played a big game. So he was one of those guys that developed late as a player. I mean, he developed through the industrial league, the league that he played in after he quit at LaSalle, and boy, he became a player. We never had. Well, he was this good. He came down to play against as an alum. He came down to play against the 68 team or 69 team, which personnel-wise I thought was the best we've ever had. In fact, as we were preparing for this alumni game, and only five of them came back, the five starters, and he came in. He'd been drinking, and he just was feeling full of himself, and he's hollering, Freddie Carter, where are you, Fred? He said, the big O is here. And he said, you're going to get beat. And I told him, these guys have been out of school for 5 years. These were the best players we ever had, physically the best players we ever had. Well, to kind of make a long story short, they gave us our worst loss of the year. The alumni just buried them. I mean, this was Fred Carter, Bob Riley, John Novi, Louis Grillo. I mean, the best personnel that we've ever had. Fast, young, good. And these guys were old and fat, and they just absolutely buried them. Jerry Savage played with them, which he was on the team the year before, and he was not on the 62 team. But he always considers himself part of it. He always says that the 61 team was better than the 62 team, and he's right, they were, but things didn't break the way they broke the following year. But John was, in that game, John got 32 points, Fred Carter got 9, and they played head to head. That's why when you talk about John O'Reilly, he's a complete player, tough defensive player, and very good offensively, had great vision, could see open people, and he could shoot. That's why his numbers are not nearly as good as what they could have been if he had been more anxious to shoot the ball. But he's one of these guys that he said, I only had 12 against Pitt Johnstown. He said, but I had 8 assists. I helped Dick Talley get 18 points. I'm just using names, and he was that way. And he remembered every play in the game, and he was critical of himself and critical of everybody else too. He didn't dare be criticize the coach though. Well, I felt it was the right thing to do because as scorers go, he was not as good a scorer as Fred or as Jack Sullivan. Jack Sullivan was a fantastic scorer. He scored from everywhere, against everybody, big teams, smaller teams. He'd score against everybody. Fred was the most athletic player we had. And John O'Reilly was a combination of them all. Here was John O'Reilly, who had trouble jumping that high, held the Palestra rebound record for a couple years with 27 or 29 rebounds. He was a fantastic rebounder. I saw him play defensively against Happy Hairston, who was an all-pro player from NYU, played for the Lakers. And John fouled him out with 10 minutes to play when we played them up there in New York. Happy didn't know what hit him. Here he was making all these post moves and scoring on him and getting fouls on him. And he well deserves it. He's one of the top 3 players that we've ever had. He deserved all the respect that the players gave him. They really did, because he would play them individually, like the guards, Eddie Pfeiffer, anybody that was small. They always thought they could beat him, but he would go play them one-on-one. And because he had guard skills from his younger days, even though he was bigger and broader, you couldn't get around him. And he'd get close enough and stop you. And he used to beat Pfeiffer and Maloney and everybody. He beat them all. And they conceded that he was a heck of a player. Rebounder, defender, he could do it all.